IDROPAVPRO is a single component enamel that, like GeoPaint, we designed and developed in 2017. Over the years, it has been improved both technically and practically so that it can now be used in a variety of work settings, ranging from professional sectors to DIY. It is an enamel that offers several advantages, both economically and practically. First of all, from an economic standpoint, it's a solution that allows you to quickly renovate spaces without excessive cost. For example, when remodeling a bathroom, you can apply directly over the tiles without having to tear up the entire surface, making it possible to refresh an entire room in very little time. As I mentioned earlier, it can be applied not only directly onto tiles, but also in other contexts such as concrete floors, making it suitable for garages, storage units, and shops as well. It has high hardness and resistance to foot traffic, so it's also suitable for areas with heavy pedestrian use, and it can even be coated with transparent paints, either single component or two component, which further enhances durability. A few small precautions to keep in mind before applying IDROPAVPRO are mainly related to preparing the surface. When it comes to covering floors or cement-based surfaces, the main thing to do is to check that the surface does not have excessive absorption. This can be easily tested with water to assess how absorbent the surface is. If it is too absorbent, you need to use consolidants, transparent or pigmented colored fixative primers that provide an initial base coat and prepare the surface to receive IDROPAVPRO. In the case of tiles, however, there is no need to apply fixatives or primers, since the resin that makes up IDROPAVPRO is already highly resistant by nature. The only thing to pay attention to is the cleanliness of the surface. In fact, even if the tiles may look clean or already ready to be painted, it's always better to degrease them with specific degreasers, not the ones normally used in homes or commercially, and then wash them with water. Once the entire surface is dry, you can start applying IDROPAVPRO. Moving on to the practical part, here I have a tile like the ones you might find in any home when you want to refresh the space. So I'm gonna start by giving it an initial degrease with a stronger degreaser and then wash it with water. Once it's dry, I'll proceed to apply IDROPAVPRO directly onto the tile. So let's degrease the surface. This is a very powerful industrial degreaser, but it doesn't leave behind excessive greasy residues, which every degreaser contains, and it cleans by removing all the dirt from the tile, even the layer that's invisible to the naked eye. After letting it sit for a few seconds, you can go over it with some paper to give it a first wipe and remove the thickest layer. As you can clearly see, even if the tile surface appears to be quite clean, the hidden dirt and grime still manage to come off quite easily. Okay, once the surface is well degreased, we move on to cleaning the entire surface with a wet sponge or a cloth. Once or twice. The more you clean, obviously, the better. This is because any grease on the tiles or simply dust and dirt of any kind would compromise the adhesion of the enamel. So when we apply it, it might seem well anchored. However, once the enamel dries, if it hasn't adhered properly to the surface, it will start to peel off and come away. So the work will basically have to be redone from scratch. Let's dry off the water. Always make sure you've dried it thoroughly, because even an excessive amount of moisture on the tile would compromise the perfect adhesion of the enamel. Okay? And that's it. The surface is ready to be painted. Let's remove these things and get the enamel. So as for rollers, you can use any rollers designed for enamels. We generally recommend a sponge or Molto-Preen rollers. The most important thing is simply that they don't have bristles that are too long, because that would leave too many streaks and the application wouldn't turn out as perfectly as we want. Let's thoroughly and completely wet the roller, making absolutely sure it fully absorbs the enamel very well, and then carefully apply a smooth, even layer directly onto the tile surface, being extremely careful to spread the enamel as evenly as possible so as not to leave any excessive buildup of the product whatsoever. What is generally recommended is to apply a first coat of product that covers the entire surface well, then go over it with a few strokes in the opposite direction to spread the product even more evenly. And final one last very light pass to eliminate any small imperfections and thus even out the entire application. Obviously, depending on the color of the tile, the shade chosen for the enamel, and generally as a basic rule in any painting context, you will usually need to apply 2 coats of product unless you are using a very light color or one that is very similar to the existing surface in order to achieve total uniformity of the surface. Now we've applied the coat in one direction, and we'll do a final pass without pressing too hard with the roller to avoid leaving roller marks, and that's it. The product dries very quickly. Basically, under normal conditions, you can proceed with the second coat after just 6 to 8 hours. So technically, both coats can be applied in a single day. As always, it also depends a bit on the season. In summer, of course, it will dry a little faster, while in winter you might have to wait until the next day if the temperatures are lower. I have already prepared a tile with the second coat of product so that I can show you the application of the transparent protective varnish, which, as we always say, is not mandatory but is recommended in the sense that the enamel helps create a uniform and well-colored surface, thus evening out the overall appearance. Whether you choose a glossy or satin finish, that's simply a matter of personal taste, but it will make the surface even more resistant both to water, so to washing, to the point that it can even be used on shower walls if you want, and also to impacts or mechanical knocks. The application of the varnish basically follows the same principle as that of the enamel. Here too, we use a sponge roller. A new roller, this is an extra tip, should always be dampened with a bit of water first, so that it absorbs the liquid well and all the air inside the roller is released. So we go ahead and wet it. Then we give it a good squeeze to remove as much water as possible, and it's ready to use. Here as well, we use a grid to ensure we pick up the right amount of product with the roller. I'm making a division to also leave a portion of the enamel visible, which, as I mentioned, can be left exposed. And I'm going to apply what in this case is a single component varnish, our clear coat in its satin finish version. As before, I start by covering the entire surface with the first coat, paying less attention to the aesthetic effect achieved at this stage, since with the following passes and the crisscrossing of the roller strokes, I'll be able to even out the result in the best possible way. Okay, I cross the roller strokes so as to spread the product more evenly, and then I do one last very light pass just to optimize the result. Perfect. So to sum up, IDROPAVPRO has 3 main advantages: speed of application, the ability to choose any color available from the various color charts, and last but not least, the possibility to use it without needing a professional, thanks to how easy it is to use. All right, let's go see the final result of the application. Okay. Okay. As you can see, the tile has 2 coats of IDROPAVPRO enamel and 1 coat of transparent finish in its satin version.